I'm Specialist Guardiola. I'll be going over the risk assessment today. We are outside of the element. As far as the weather goes, it's about 88, 89 degrees outside with about less than 5% chance of rain. We're going to be mindful for potholes. We're going to be mindful for insects such as spider webs and anthills. Also, we're going to be careful for uneven terrain, and we're going to keep our eyes out for a potential or possible active shooter. In the event that there is an active shooter, there's an exit point to my right and there's an exit point here to my left. And we'll be going over how to build the A-frame silhouette that hides your body. The task here, the job is to hide the A-frame and the L shapes found on your body, like so. And the A-frame does an outstanding job with hiding that, disguising that, blending that in with your natural surroundings by using vegetation around you. Again, in the video today, in this training, we'll be going over how I go about finding the tree limbs, how I go about putting them together, tying them together with paracord, and how we go about fashioning them through the A-frame, creating a grid-like structure, being able to weave in vegetation. Now, as we begin today's class, we want to keep in mind the tools, the supplies that we're going to need for today's class. Now, when it comes to making the A-frame silhouette, there's really not much to it. A bunch of it is built around your natural surroundings. One thing to keep in mind is when we do gather paracord, which will be the probably main essential tool here right now, this and the knife, we want to choose earth-like colors. You want to avoid your bright colors and things of that nature. You want to focus on your greens, any tone greens. You want to focus on your tans, your light tans down to your dark tans. Very much well mimicking the colorations that we find on our uniforms. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And Gerber saw. This here turns into a Gerber saw used to cut the perimeter frame, which is the thicker bush. We want to have on us a Gerber knife, and for slightly thicker brush, a Gerber axe. And again, these are literally the basic tools here. You're not going to need anything more than this. You're not going to need anything less than this here. This right here is going to help you construct the A-frame silhouette. Now, as you can tell, with constructing the A-frame, you want to keep in mind that what we're going to do first is we're going to gather 3 limbs, and these 3 limbs are going to be a few inches taller than we are. So if you're 6 foot, you want to gather 3 limbs that are about 6.5 feet in length. This is so that the A-frame masks your silhouette. The whole point of this here is so that the A-frame is hiding your silhouette. You want to hide the L shapes found between your arms. You want to hide the triangular shape that's found between your legs. You also want to hide the sort of perimeter layout of your head as well, with the ears protruding. Humans have evolved the ability to identify these features in the event that we were lost or became stranded out in the wilderness, or if we needed to identify other members of our groups. So again, starting with the perimeter, what I did here is I've constructed the perimeter of this A-frame silhouette. So I've got one long tree limb here, it's a branch. Here on this side, I've got the same thing going on here, going upwards. And then I've got a horizontal piece here, left to right. Now, weaving that in together starts off with tying them together using paracord. Now, as you can see here, and hopefully it comes up clear enough, you see where we've tied off the corners here. We've tied off the corners here. And up at the top, we've done the same here. Now, to begin with constructing the A-frame silhouette, what I've done is I've gone out to the tree line and I've gathered tree limbs, I've gathered moss, I've gathered plants, and you know, different types of bushes that you find in your immediate area. Another thing to take into account is when constructing the A-frame silhouette and utilizing the vegetation around you, you want to focus on using vegetation that grows in the general area where you will be at. So like if you find yourself on level terrain, you want to use the vegetation that grows on level terrain. You don't want to start picking the top ends of tree limbs and stuff like that, because you don't find those things on the ground. So again, when weaving in the brush into your A-frame silhouette, you want to keep in mind to be more realistic, to have a realistic approach to what we're going for. This here is the back end side of the A-frame. On the other side of the A-frame, it's a bit more live, and it definitely works. Later on in the class here, I will give you a quick demonstration on how exactly it works, how to wear the A-frame, and how effective the A-frame is. And just a quick reminder, class, again, with the tools at hand, they're very basic things. It's only paracord and an instrument used to cut. But being that we are working with very sharp objects, again, this is a reminder to please be safe, making sure you're not pointing the knives at anybody, you're not throwing them at anybody, God forbid. And if you go about passing the knife over to a classmate, remember the back end of the knife first, place it into their hands, you let go of the knife. Of course, the knife is set in their hands, they grab the knife and bring it to them without stabbing themselves, right? As far as using the hatchet, it's the same deal. The hatchet, if it's not being utilized, please keep the Gerber hatchet in the sheath for protection, as well as the Gerber saw. Now, you may not have a saw, but any conventional saw works, right? But if you happen to purchase a Gerber saw, I can quickly demonstrate on how it's deployed. So again, for safety reasons, we're going to be going over that just a quick moment. I'm going to bring that out like that. It's got a little hook there. You can see that hook there. We bring that hook doing this with, there we go, hook that there like that. Got yourself a saw, right? Too easy. Again, you may or may not need a saw. I don't know if you want to go hacking away for 30 minutes with a knife. Maybe the vegetation is possibly too thick for the hatchet. That's why we have the saw. So again, the saw, knife, hatchet, 2 paracords, right? We had 3 earlier. This is the other tone green here. Again, we're sticking with earth-like colors, so be mindful of that. Stay away from all the bright colors. And a quick demonstration on how to cut paracord, because one thing is safety. Safety is always key, right? So safety first. What I like to do is place the paracord here in your mouth, stretch out a distance to the yarn length, bring the knife away from the body, cut outward, so that we're not cutting ourselves. Safety first, everyone, okay? For a quick demonstration on how we go about tying the limbs up together, we're just going to grab ourselves some paracord here. Simple paracord. Now, do be mindful. Originally, the white lace here kind of gives it away, so what you want to do is you want to go about getting rid of that. And then what I like to do is just tie a knot there at the end. That knot will keep the paracord from fraying out, exposing the white strands found within the insides of the paracord. Right, so then we just come in here, and I've got a previous tie down in there, but this is just an actual example, demonstration of how it's performed. Right, so we're just looping through the limb here. As you can tell, tie. And just like that. We've gone over that there. You can see where we've continued to make other tie downs as well throughout the A-frame. Here, 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 and a few knots in the center. And again, this just gives it more of a stability, right? Increases stability there so that the A-frame is not being wobbly on us or anything like that. In fact, the A-frame, as I can demonstrate for you here, the A-frame is actually quite sturdy. It's solid, right? And so what we do is you take a piece of branch off of a tree, and when you do that, remember to pick towards the lower end of the tree. And the reason for that is the higher the tree leaves or branches are to the trees, higher they are up the tree, the brighter they are, right? The lower they are, the darker the color is. So that's just that much difference in height difference. Away from the sun, the top of the tree gets more sun. It gives that shaded sort of appearance. Remember, your best hiding spots are in shade-like areas. So when we go about weaving the branch inside the A-frame silhouette, what we want to do is we've already built a sort of like a tic-tac-toe pattern going out throughout the entire A-frame here. So when we weave, we want to start off on the outside. We want to start off on the outside or inside, but then go opposite. So let's start off to the outside. Go behind this other limb here. Go from behind it. Then we're going to go on top of this frame here. So as you pull, now we're beginning to do the weaving in, right? So we're going to weave that in a bit. Go on the opposite side. Bring that through. Grab it on the other end. And we're done. Now, you might think, well, that was pretty quick. There wasn't much to it. Let me tell you something. You don't want to create any form of uniformity, right? You don't want to create patterns, right? Because in nature, there are no patterns. Naturally, a tree is not symmetrical, right? You can't cut a tree down in half and have equal sides. You've got branches that grow differently on either end, all the way around the tree. So when creating the A-frame silhouette, you want to be diverse, right? You don't want limbs perfectly lined up, right? Of course, the A-frame itself, as you can see here, this is symmetrical, but this is all being hidden, right? So again, we want to refrain from doing anything that seems too symmetrical because that stands out. And the whole point of this exercise here, this training here, is to avoid standing out. It's to avoid being seen. In the midst of that, again, we'll be hiding the L shape here found in our arms and the triangular shape found between our legs, between our knees there. So, as you can see, we've done that process over and over and over with not just the building material for the A-frame itself, but also for the vegetation. We've got moss. We've got an avocado tree branch. Might get in trouble for that one, but that's an avocado tree. I've got a banana tree on the backside. I've got a palm tree on the backside. I can go ahead and show that to you now. See, even on camera it looks a bit more realistic. You got a mixture between the 5-palm, moss, and some grasses. This gives the appearance of low land, right? This gives the appearance of obviously you not being up in the trees, scavenging up. This gives more of an appearance of being low profile on the ground. Makes it harder to be seen. You can go ahead and check that out. Right, now as mentioned before, weaving in those limbs. Here's a quick example. Weaving in vine. Vine typically grows on the floor, grows up trees, grows up and around bushes, can definitely be found on a lower level plane, right? So we'll go about showing you guys how I go about weaving this in to the A-frame. Play closer picture. So first, what I like to do is, the vine is a very malleable substance, right? So you can technically tie it into a knot, but just not a tight one. You don't want to break it. You can weave that in here like so. Now again, this is the top side. So once we get that in there like that, we're going to grab some of the moss here. All right, we're going to grab some of this moss here. Kind of hide that a little bit, right? Just like that, not by much. And so we'll grab the vine. Have it come through. And expose those dark and bright colors. So again, natural sort of setting, natural sort of as much as possible. Now I take the vine and I'm going around the frame from one of the limbs that stick out on the side. I can see that here. Just loop around it, bring it back over, bring the vine back this way. When we do that, then you find another hole here. Boom, just like that. Now again, we want to refrain from doing anything perfect. It may look like it's being done sloppy. It may look like it's being done sort of like in a rush or something, but truthfully, that's exactly the approach you want to go. You want this to look like the ground, right? You want this to look like it's just naturally on the floor. I mean, I got a corner over here of the yard I haven't yet picked up, and it's got vegetation growing on it, right? You'd notice that none of that looks perfect. All that's growing wild, right? All that's just growing. There's limbs in there, there's fallen debris, there's grass that's alive and bright and green, also dead and brown, as well as leaves. You want to stick leaves in your A-frame silhouette, feel free. If you want to stick fallen pine needles, that's good. That works just as well. You'll notice that some of my vegetation has already died. Some of it's alive, some of it's darker green. These are the same species here. This one, I put this in a while ago, and I put this in here yesterday, right? So what that does is, hey, this is that section of the bush, or that area of the bush that probably didn't get any water, or that's been beaten up by the sun, and there isn't much shade, so it's sort of burnt it out, right? And then up here, you'll find where that vegetation might have been in the shade a little bit more. So you've got this natural flow of chaos. And that's exactly how nature works, right? So take a look here, and if you notice, it does start to already blend in with the wooden privacy fence in the background, right? Kind of sort of naturally starts blending in with the vine here growing on the gate naturally. You see that? So here is a short demonstration of how effective the camouflaging A-frame is against the natural brush. I'm going to go over how the A-frame silhouette's worn. Again, we're using earth-like colors for the pair straps. We want to tie a corner, not here on the upper right-hand side, down to the lower left-hand side, creating a shoulder strap. A-frame is then worn with the hands being freed. An example of how it blends into the natural surroundings. We will be concluding things here, and in the midst of concluding things here, we also want to make sure that we police up our area, picking up any loose articles, picking up any debris that we might have left behind, picking up any straggling pieces of limb so that no one trips over them. We've already retrieved our knives, we've retrieved our axes. We placed those back into the bag for safekeeping. And right now, again, just before we head out, just one more look here at that awesome A-frame and how effective and genuine and diverse the layout is. And again, there's nothing in there symmetrical. You know, everything just kind of came out just right. Now, I would like to know if you guys can tell me, was there anything that was, you know, what was supposed to happen, what happened, and what went right, possibly what went wrong. If there are any questions or concerns, please bring those forward, and be more than willing to answer those questions for you so that you can better understand how to construct the A-frame silhouette. And it's a pretty nice work of art here, right? Alrighty, so again, just to recap on the risk assessment, it was low. It pertained to be low all throughout the training session. Again, we are under tree cover here for shade. We have our water. Again, we have our exit points here to the right and to the left in the event that it was either an active shooter or a fire. We do have a weapon with us in the event that there is an active shooter, but again, safety first, and we're going to run away from where the active shooter is. And in the event that we're followed or caught up in a corner or something, we can defend ourselves, but safety first. Yes, so that will conclude today's session. Again, I'm Specialist Guardiola. This is for CIT training event on the A-frame silhouette here for BOC 2021. Thank you. You guys take care.